Something is happening in Severance, Marvin. Something big. And I don't think we, the audience, are fully seeing the whole picture yet. Episode 5 just dropped, as you know.
Yep.
And a bunch of clues, I think, are in this episode that hint at something much darker coming down the rest of the season.
That's interesting, actually. I was kind of getting the vibes that it was confirming a lot of our theories.
It did, but
you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if you connect the dots, I think Lumen's plans might be even worse than we might have thought initially. And there's a storm building in this show. And we'll talk about this episode, and then I'm going to break down exactly why I think the second half of this season is about to take a very dark turn, Marvin.
I think I kind of get where you're going.
This episode opens up with who I think we're to assume is the guy that, what's her name, the little old sweet lady was talking to Irv about, the guy who comes and takes their shit, their deliveries. You get this opening, it's a cold open before the titles, and it's like kind of funny because they're not showing this dude's face. Like they go to like comical lengths almost to like not show his face as he's walking through the hallway and then past the shelving units and all this stuff. He's somebody who's going to be coming up, I think, further in the season. He's not just going to be like a one-off guy. We're seeing now what she described to Irv. She hands him off what is like dentistry tools, which is bizarre.
When I first saw this room, I was like, this is like a morgue where it's like he's going to open up and it's going to be a body sliding out. But it turns out it's just dentist tools for everyone, or what we assume. I mean, each thing is labeled, but we can't see the names, obviously.
In season 1, they're all working on 3D printers. So, yeah. So I'm pretty sure they are like 3D printing shit. And I think it's tools, these dentistry tools. I think they're making everything that is used in this building, like in-house. Like I think they make everything. So this scene ends with the dark hallway that we've been seeing so much. And
Exports hall, yeah.
Man goes down into this elevator down to the testing floor. This is where I think the darkness is coming, Marvin. This is our cold open, and then the episode gets into Mark. And it turns out that apparently, at least these guys think, that the Ortbo retreat actually happened, and it was actually outside. We had speculated, and I think some people on the internet had speculated that this was like an augmented like reality thing, because it did have some very surreal vibes, even outside of Irv's nightmare.
Which, I mean, is a fine assumption to make, because how else could something so grand happen?
Right.
But we find out that it did happen over the weekend.
Yep.
And with the Audi's permission, which is interesting.
Yeah. He's talking to his sister, and he kind of get the sense that he's like keeping some stuff from her, because I think he's trying to keep her safe now that he knows there's like a deeper sort of rabbit hole going on. And he just says, I don't know. They told me my innie like fell off a rope or something like that and got wet. He's taking some pills and drinking some very sus liquid. It's
like ginger or something. Like, I don't know what that was.
He's doing the things that Petey didn't do, right? Like Petey ended up like going crazy because he wasn't, you would, I guess, medicating and like doing the things necessary to physically deal with the process of reintegration. But we find out the doctor's living with him, I guess, during this process. I think there's a little more that meets the eye from her too. She's a little suspicious, not in a bad way, but I think there's something more going on with her, which we'll get into.
She's like one of those mad scientist types, you know, so she's a little maybe lacking some empathy and that sort of thing. So but she probably like is willing to kind of do anything also to take down Lumen. So she's like probably pretty radicalized, because we don't really know her backstory that much, right?
Yeah.
So it could be some of that too.
I really like the fact that this episode deals a lot with Mr. Milchick, Seth.
Ooh, yeah.
Like this episode heavily kind of focuses on him in pretty strategic ways. At one point in the episode, we are with him going for a performance review with Drummond and Natalie. It doesn't go great for him, but there's some key takeaways, I think. So this whole scene is set up. He first meets with Natalie, and she says, we're gonna go for your review or whatever. Are you excited? And he has a moment of like actual humanity for a second, where he asks her, a black woman, when you received your gift from Lumen, this like, you know, the revisionist history of like their cult story. He says it feels good that this is a sign of their appreciation of my hard work. But
yes,
he's like, how did you feel when you got this?
Yeah, and she completely goes to the next.
Ignores him. She goes into the upside down and just like glitches out. And
yeah, her face is really good at saying things without saying it. So that was like very well done.
Well, in the episode where she gives him the gift, like she has that smile that's cracking. Like she's almost crying under it. This time I think she kept more of her composure. He goes into his performance review and Drummond says he has a couple of complaints against him, which are clearly from Miss Wong. One is he uses too many big words and he's using paper clips incorrectly.
It's so stupid. Yeah.
But then they kind of ream him out for what happened on his watch, which is like the death of Irving, like the whole retreat shenanigans. And there was like one other thing they mentioned.
Their main complaint was that the new
hires
team didn't work out, and then obviously after that it just kind of went to shit. Yeah.
Right. So the key takeaways for me here is that Seth, Mr. Milkshake, is trying to take a different approach with the Innies than Patricia Arquette's character did. Miss Cobell kind of ruled with an iron fist, right? She was a little bit more ruthless, and he was sort of her like enforcer. I don't think he cares about them, or at least I'm not sure, but I don't think he cares about the Innies. Because I think he's like pretty bought into the whole like cult of Kier bullshit or whatever's going on. So. But this whole like revisionist history thing, I think kind of like rubbed him the wrong way, clearly. I think he's taking a different approach and kind of trying to like lead them with kindness, I guess, or his version of it, or Lumen's version of kindness. Yeah. And it's sort of failing him, obviously. And of course, by the end of the episode, we see that he has like he comes around because Drummond basically threatens him and is like, are you ready to like do what is necessary? Because Mark is almost done with Cold Harbor. Like
81%.
81%. And it's going to be the greatest achievement in human history.
Yeah. He also says something about back to basics and treating them like as what they are or something. So
this is a dark episode, Marvin.
Is the goal just enslavement of people to the cult? Like, is it not even as deep or like whatever as what we assumed before? Because kind of seems that way.
Well,
they just want people in the cult.
I think
that will do their bidding. I don't think they.
I think kind of, but I think it's a little bit. I think it's a little deeper than that. We've seen the way the elites think of the Innies.
Yeah.
And I think it goes beyond the Innies. I think we're just seeing it from an Innie perspective right now. But Drummond says to him, get back to basics, like you said. Remember to see them for what they are, what they really are. And he never really like gets to it, but it's like you think he's going to say something like they're just slaves, they're just
that's what I was
whatever. Yeah. But he doesn't quite get there. However, in another scene in this episode with Milkshake, he's setting up a funeral for Irv at the request of the three remaining characters, Helly, Mark, and Dylan. Miss Wong says to him, we shouldn't give them a funeral. It makes them think they're human.
Yeah.
Which is like chilling to say. But I finally realized why it's a little girl. Like, it's been funny this whole time. It's like, it's a girl, but it's like, it's actually like a crazy dichotomy because it's like this like bone chilling thing.
Yes.
Sinister thing coming out of the mouth of a child. And so she's ruthless.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously. But it's clear to me now, this coupled with the fact that she is like ratting on Milkshake and she has problems with his leadership, she's trying to usurp him the way he did to Cobell.
That's how they keep the cogs going. Whoever comes up under them, just to keep the whole cult, make sure that whoever's leading the department is, got the cult's interests at heart. Helena earlier, when they're meeting with her, talking to her about her fuck up.
That's where I was going to go next, yeah.
She said, she referred to them as animals.
Fucking animals. They're fucking animals.
Yeah.
She's getting grilled by Drummond about sort of like what happened. Now, we were wrong. We thought I kind of said, I think that she was kind of undercover on her own volition. It turns out she was kind of
I was right. Yes.
Yeah, she was not only forced, well, no, she was even forced to just go in as a severed person.
That's true. She didn't want to go down at all.
She didn't want to go down at all. So they're kind of forcing her down there. And this is a very interesting scene because she says, well, she kind of snippy says like, well, let father know that his daughter's okay and alive. And Drummond says, this came from father. He knows, like he wants you to go back down.
Exactly.
But Drummond referred to him as father. So either Drummond is her brother and also an Egan, or her father is like the current cult leader as the CEO. Yes. And everybody refers to him as father.
You know, I'm honestly not sure if it's really her father or if she's just the one that's...
we don't really know that she's an Egan.
Going to be the CEO.
We're just assuming that she's an Egan.
Yeah.
She's obviously in a position of power, but we don't know, like, if you're in a cult, you would call the cult leader father or like some, you know, that's like a thing that a cult would do. And I think it's safe to say by now that this is a cult. She says they're fucking animals. There was a lot of moments in this episode where it really highlighted what these elites or the higher ups in the company think of surface level, the Innies, but I think just what they think of people in general and how they
people outside the cult. It's the same thing like with Scientology. Like if you're not in it, like you can't be hanging around these people. You don't, I mean, just with mostly any cult, you don't interact with the people outside of the cult.
Right.
And you see them as less than for the most part.
This isn't the first time she's done this either. In a couple of episodes ago, she slipped and she kind of said something to Mark. She said, we're not the same. And then she corrects herself and she's like, we're not the same as the Audis. Or the Audis are not the same as us.
Ooh, I didn't see that. That was a good one.
That was a couple episodes ago when they were, I think the one where they went to go the goat room. She does she has like a little flip out.
She slips.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
she was disgusted.
And in season 1, remember when she made her video to Helly?
Yeah.
And she was like fucking like shitting on her.
Yeah.
So Helly specifically like despises them.
Yeah.
And sees them as like grotesque, less than human people. And we know, and now we see that Miss Huang feels the same way. So we're starting to get a picture that's painted of what's going on here.
I think with Seth, Mr. Milchick, I don't know if he's really into the cult. Like, I feel like he might just be playing it as a corporate job and he's just trying to move up the ranks and playing it that way. Like,
I think he's into it.
If he was into it, I feel like he wouldn't be displaying these tales where he's like kind of like turning away from it a bit.
It seems like he has a little soft side.
Yeah.
A little bit. I put that in my notes too. I was like,
yeah.
And he might be up to something. You had said early on that you think Helly's going to be like or Helena's going to be like the sort of the savior of this season sort of thing, like the big twist, I think it's going to be him, if anybody now.
Now, as it's progressed, I think it's going to be him, but I definitely thought it was going to be her at first.
I do think he's bought into the cult, but I think maybe he is like a nicer person than we kind of maybe are giving him credit for from what we've seen.
Yeah.
But maybe not, because he has this moment at the end of toughness where he gets in Mark's face and like threatens him and is like, did you tell her that you fucked her outie on the Ortbo retreat or whatever? So I don't know. I'm a little 50-50 on him right now. They have a funeral for Irving, which was hilarious because Mr. Milchick is like, we will now have 9 seconds of silence for whatever, 9 seconds specifically. I thought was very funny. But they have this watermelon head for him, and who the fuck knows what all this shit means? I don't know. But we did get the payoff of what Irv said before he got turned off at last episode. Hang in there. It was a reference to the poster that's in this room, and Dylan decides to look behind it, and he finds, sure as shit, a drawing of the hallway to the testing floor with the most hilarious map in human history on it written. It's like turn left, 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 right, right, left, 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 down, right, long hallway. So it's seemingly directions to this hallway. Dylan hides it. We don't know if he's hiding it because he's like nervous that he's going to lose his privileges. He did get threatened by Milchick a little bit this episode. Or if he's hiding it just to figure out what to do. They also had like a little beef between the three of them. So, things are up in the air. I kind of got the feeling sort of like the Avengers, like Civil War, the movie. like serve to split them up. Like you bring the heroes down to their lowest point before the big fucking thing comes, which is of course Infinity War, when Thanos comes and wrecks shop, and they can't do anything because they're splintered. They're stronger together. And so this episode kind of felt that way, where it's like these guys had their fight. Lumen did their best to like split them up, and it seems to be successfully happening. Irv's dead. Dylan's seeing his family, so he's got like secret motivation. Mark doesn't trust Helly. Helly's like fucking all confused. It's like, I don't even know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, it's crazy because you realize, like, damn, she doesn't know anything.
Yeah, no, she didn't
know Miss Huang. She didn't know about Gemma.
We're seeing them at their lowest point now before the storm that I think is coming. There's a moment where we find out that Ricken's talking to Devin, and we know that a couple episodes back, Natalie spoke to him about rewriting his book to make it more Innie friendly. And we actually find out exactly what he's writing. And so he's reading to Devin, the rewritten passage. So the passage was one that they read in season 1 before they did their whole mission. And it's, our job is to taste free air. Your so-called boss may own the clock that taunts you from the wall. Now it says, your sovereign boss may own the clock that greets you from the wall, but you get to enjoy its ticking, and thus should be happy.
So stupid, yeah.
So
turn from freedom to complete subjugation. You thought it was the wife. It was actually him. He's the snake. So lastly, we get a shot of Irving, Irving.
Oh, yeah.
He goes up to a phone booth and calls somebody.
That's the first second time.
He's like, I was fired. I think Lumen knows what my Innie was up to. And I was like, oh shit, he's talking to Bert. But then Bert's in the car.
I'll tell you who he's talking to.
Who?
He's talking to the doctor.
I don't know why the doctor would keep it separate from
because I think
Mark, though.
We've been talking about it all season that Irv is in some sort of like advanced stage of reintegration, whether it be like naturally occurring or whatever. Also part of the ending of this episode, when Mark comes home, she's like rummaging through his shit to try to like trigger memories and stuff. She mentions like her previous experiments with it, and he's like, oh, like you've done this so many times. She doesn't respond to him. She just says like, she just doesn't even respond.
Yeah, it's possible that she's done it more than we've
I think she's done it more than we've been led to believe, and I think Irv is one of the people she's done it to. It would be the best explanation as to why he seems like advanced in his...
It could be, yeah, but we've never seen Irv glitch out or anything.
We just haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Irv's not the main character. Mark is.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
He's talking to somebody. I think it's her. But clearly, like we've said, he knows more than meets the eye. And he does confront Bert. Bert followed him, and he's like, what are you doing? What are you following me? He's like, well, it means you were yelling at my front door the other night. So
just like I said in one of our episodes.
And turns out he got fired. Lumen tells him it's because he had a romantic entanglement with another employee. And they sort of put 2 and 2 together, and Irv is like, do you think we had
invites him over?
Do you think we were a item? And he goes, well, my husband thinks that. He's like, you know what? We're having a ham tomorrow. Why don't you come over and bring an expensive bottle of red wine? We'll talk it out.
That's insane, yeah.
So I think we're starting to build the team. The Avengers are starting to form of who's going to like, the Audis are going to like, you know.
Which is cool as fuck, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Because the whole, like we said, the whole first season was the Innies coming together to do a plan. So I do think we're going to see a team up of the Audis to do something.
Totally.
To get to the inside, which is cool.
And the episode ends with Mark seemingly having like a big reintegration moment where he's in the hallway to the wellness thing, whatever it's called.
Yeah, he was leaving the wellness, going to the hallway.
Yeah. And he sees his wife face to face. Like basically.
Yeah, he's hearing her voice.
Yeah. Audi Mark is having the memories of Innie Mark.
Yes.
And it ends with her saying, your Audi will... And then
die.
Yeah, no, but she didn't finish the world. You think die?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Win the lottery.
Before that, there was one very important thing, which was the cremated remains.
Yes.
He thought she was burned, not from the accident, but because she was cremated.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And you thought she was burned like
I did.
From the accident, but we got confirmation that that's what happened.
Which is even crazier because if he cremated her, then what the fuck? Who'd he cremate? He even says, he's like, who the fuck is in there?
Well, because she's like, they got people everywhere. So
now
they could swap the body out. She's really just unconscious. They swap the body out and burn a random body.
Did you catch what he said?
What's that?
When he said, she's not dead, she's just not here. It's what he said during the funeral for Irv. He said it to Dylan. He goes, well, he's not dead, he's just not here. So I don't know if it's any deeper than just like his two minds like intermingling now. I think that's what it is. It's just he's like,
probably,
the reintegration process is happening.
Yes. I think the doctor was rummaging through his stuff to trigger him in that moment. I don't think she actually wanted to wait.
Here's why I think things are going to get dark this season for the rest of the season. So in that cold open, our mysterious man walking the cart, he's whistling a little tune. It took me a second, and I looked it up to be sure, and other people spotted it too, but I knew the song. It's a song by Gordon Lightfoot. It's called The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And it's a song about a real-life ship that mysteriously sank, killing 29 crew members. And I think once you realize that, it adds a whole new meaning to the episode. So in the song, it's a true story about the SS Edmund Fitzgerald. It was a big freighter. It sank in Lake Superior during a storm in November of 1975. On its final voyage, it goes from Wisconsin carrying iron ore to Detroit. And there's a big storm, powerful winds, massive waves, the works. And as the storm intensifies, the crew struggles. This is the song describing what happened. The ship takes on water. Tragically, the 29 men on board all die, but no bodies were ever recovered. So the song paints like this haunting picture of the ship's final moments, and the eerie legends surrounding Lake Superior, which is in the song, is quoted as never gives up her dead. The lake never gives up her dead. How does that relate to this episode, Marvin? You might be asking. Well,
yeah, I am asking.
The dead that never returned. Well, Gemma's fate, however you pronounce her name. In the song, one of the lines is the lake, it is said, never gives up her dead. And I was thinking, I was like, well, is that what's happening to Gemma? Is that what's happening to everybody? Mark spent years grieving his wife, believing she was gone forever, but now we're starting to realize that Lumen may have just lied about everything.
Right.
We don't know if she was in a coma, or if she died, or they faked her death, or what. And then there's
they could have even caused the accident and everything.
The show doesn't do anything by accident. He's not just whistling this tune by accident.
Oh, yeah.
So another way that I think this relates is Mark and Helly and the Innies, they're all trapped in a storm, essentially, that they can't really escape. It's like this overwhelming force that's just constantly pressing down on them. It's getting harder and harder to resist because the mechanisms of power are all starting to like clamp down on what they're trying to do. The song, I think, is a foreboding. It's foreshadowing some crazy shit. But the reason I think the rest of the season is going to be really fucking dark is because a lot of the talk this episode was about, it was very dehumanizing. Mark is almost done. We see him working on the
85%. He got
85% done with whatchamacallit, Cold Harbor. I think Lumen's going to be really ramping up their authoritarian bullshit.
It feels like we're progressing fast. So it's like we got 5 more episodes. That's a lot of episodes. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're gonna go from here. I wonder if we get another like big moment before even the finale.
Well, here's what I think. I had mentioned, my big theory was that they're trying to erase human emotion. There's people that think there's cloning going on, obviously strengthened by last episode with the doppelgangers in the fucking woods. You think it's aliens?
No, I was just saying. I think the board might be aliens. I don't know.
I actually think it's a little bit of everything. I've changed my theory. I think what's going on is I think we have enough evidence to say confidently that this is a cult.
Yeah,
it is a cult on a mega scale around Keir Egan, who thought of himself as a godlike figure. They see him as a godlike figure. I think
literally Scientology.
I think they're working to try to either resurrect him, or that he's like sort of in like, stasis or something, and they're trying to give him eternal life. I think all the departments of Lumen are working on different things to achieve that goal. Like the GOAT room, I think, is working on like DNA and like shit like that. The OMD guys I think they're actually 3D printing like body parts for like physical beings, and that's why those doppelgangers in the woods looked all fucked up, because they're trying to perfect it. And I think these guys, our MDR people, are working on actual like human consciousness. I think it all comes together is on the testing floor. I think that's where like everything comes together.
Oh, he puts them together,
and
he's down there like crafting it up.
Their ultimate goal is to envelop all of human civilization, either by one way or another. Either you join us willingly, or we replace you
with yourself.
I think that's the ultimate goal, because that the doppelgangers explain it. It explains the little multiple references to the insects consuming the body.
Yeah.
So I just think that's what's happening. I think they're just creating artificial life. Like,
this actually reminded me just now
Marvin's freaking out.
That book that I read, I think I read this probably in middle school. It's actually called The Host, and it was written by Stephanie Meyer. The whole premise of this story is aliens have come to Earth.
It's always aliens.
They're basically putting like a severed consciousness into your brain.
Yeah, it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's like a similar premise, yeah.
And the goal is for that thing they put inside you to take over. There's like a resistance of people that like have been resisting this. And then there's the main story is about them. One character is like coexisting with the invading alien or whatever. It's pretty good. This reminded me of that.
That's the vibe I'm getting. They want to assimilate everybody into their cult.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it one way or the other. Either you're going to join us willingly.
Get down or lay down.
Right.
Literally.
Or we're going to take you over. And so there's one other little interesting hint at this too. In the opening sequence, the intro, that changes a little bit from episode to episode. Another lake reference, by the way, to the song Ella Fitzgerald is that they woke up on a lake last episode.
Yeah.
And also in the intro of this episode, Cobell's car is in a lake, kind of like halfway underwater, like she crashed into a lake.
Oh, they showed that?
But there's one other little thing that I noticed at the end of the episode is the last bit of the intro is a baby with Kier's head crawling past him.
I completely missed that.
It might just, I think it meets the eye. It's like a little funny little, look, but it's not. Nothing in this show is that. It's not. They don't do that. It all has like meaning and purpose, and it's a well-crafted show. And so I think they're just trying to do that, like resurrect him by any means necessary. What if they're also like the little girl, like Miss Huang, like, why are you a child? They've said it 3 times this season. Well, she's a child because she was grown here to do the bidding of Lumen. Cobell and Milchick, they were brought in as outsiders, so they have their own desires and perhaps motivations and things. Clearly, Milchick is starting to break a little bit and see the see the way things really are and maybe question things. They can't have that. The best way to get people that are just not going to question anything is to just make them yourself.
That's it.
There's one other little thing too, by the way.
What's that?
I don't know if it means anything, but in Milkshake's office is a picture of an iceberg. It's literally a saying like, oh, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Why? Because the majority of icebergs are below the surface and you only see a very little bit of it.
And also your whole analogy with the shipping, the sinking ship thing. I mean,
there's another
iceberg,
very famous
Titanic
ship. Yeah.
Damn, so that's kind of crazy.
Like I said, if you pay attention, there's like so much shit in this show that it's not done by accident. Like you don't, it's just not. So
if it is,
means
like Dusty said in the last time, I will curse Ben Stiller's name and send it into my grave.
I don't think it is. I do I think there's little Easter eggs here and there that don't really have any meaning whatsoever. Like the fact that the Montauk stuff last episode that we talked about. Like that's probably just like little Easter eggs, like little.
It was just No, that's fine. I think that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just I don't think they do anything by accident. And on the surface, again, just a guy whistling a song might mean nothing, but it seems like every little thing that happens is, and I'm not looking too deeply into it to where I'm like struggling or sweating to figure. Like it's just me being like, that song sounded familiar. What the hell was that? I looked it up. I'm like, oh, it's this Gordon Lightfoot song that I've heard millions of times. It has 80 billion plays on Spotify. Like, it's a famous song.
Yep.
And then you look into it, you're like, oh shit, this song like really parallels what's going on in the show. So I don't think it's like a crazy speculative thing to just make these connections. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
Just my point about them willing to go to no end or like no return with the shit.
Yeah, you were right.
Clear because they're forcing Helena against her will to do this thing, which is crazy on multiple levels. Like they're forcing Helena and Heliar. Like it's like this double, you know what I mean? Like this double layer of
Well, yeah, it seems like they have these offices all over the place. We know that from meeting the other team that didn't come in and assimilate, right? So obviously, I think they're just trying to do whatever they're doing with a bunch of different people. It seems that Mark is, for whatever reason, happens to be particularly good at it.
Right.
And is close to like having a breakthrough on something that they've called Cold Harbor, which they've never seen before. It's going to be a huge breakthrough for humanity or whatever the world has ever seen, he says. And so they just want him to finish. And so if you take that and apply it to my theory of like that they're working on trying to like crack human consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Because think about it, like those doppelgangers in the woods, they had no personality. Human consciousness is like one of the only things that separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom. And and it's like one of the few things that science like has yet to explain. It's like we don't know what consciousness is. Like and so if you take what's going on and you apply it to that, it like just makes sense. It's like, oh wow, they're about to figure out like what is consciousness. And once you figure that out, then you could make actual human beings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll see. 5 episodes left. I mean, like you said, I think you're right. I think this episode, like I said, marked a very dark turn for the show. I think the rest of the season we're going to see some crazy shit.
I agree.
And I'm excited. I'm here for it. But what do you guys think? Drop your theories in the comments. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, and consider subscribing if you have not done so already. We do this every week. And we also have a full-length podcast once a week, every Tuesday, where we talk about a movie. And once a month, we make Marvin watch something he hasn't seen before, and it's a lot of stuff. Just throwing that out there.